Now I want to preface this video by saying that I love my mom very much, and she's done so much for me in my entire lifetime. I have absolutely no ill will towards her, but this one aspect of my life that I've been dealing with ever since I can remember has really stunted my growth and developed me in some wrong ways as I've gotten older. And I wanted to talk about it with you guys because it's an aspect of my life that I hardly ever share with anybody, because one, it's hard for me to talk about, and two, I don't feel like many people understand, especially the people that I'm surrounded by. I don't think anybody deals with it in my close group of friends. So for those of you who don't know what hoarding is, essentially, to sum it up, it's the inability to get rid of anything. Whether it be old food, whether it be just straight up garbage, recyclables, old belongings, old clothes, anything like that. Just the inability to get rid of anything. And my mom is a hoarder. Her hoarding affects my life in a few different ways, indirectly and directly. There's a lot of friends I've made in my life that have still never been to my house. I'm 21 years old, and some of these friends I've known since I was 12, 13, and some of them still have never been over to my house because I feel too embarrassed of it. There really isn't much room to socialize in my house. I'm pretty much secluded to my room because one, that's one of the cleanest parts of the house, and two, that's basically the only space I can really use because of everything else being consumed by trash or boxes or whatever it may be. So that being said, a lot of my friends, I choose to go over to their house instead, and no one's really asked me as to why I never have people over, and that's okay. I don't expect people to ask me that unless it's really bugging them, but a lot of the time I go to friends' houses, and it's always been that way, and that really isn't an issue in itself, but the issue for me is I don't really know what it's like to really throw parties or to have more than 2 people over at a time, and that's really kind of stunted my social skills a bit. It's kind of robbed me of a lot of basic things that you do when you grow up, having people over. I have people over. I have a select few friends that I really feel comfortable with having over and having them spend the night at my house because they just understand what my conditions are and they don't judge me, which you would think would just translate over to the rest of my friends, but again, that's something I just really don't feel comfortable with sharing to these other people. And I know they'd understand, but it's embarrassing for me to talk about. It's embarrassing for me to have to explain my living conditions and showing them what they look like because I don't know. Other aspects that this hoarding affects are my parents' relationship, their relationship with other people, really. I couldn't tell you the last time we had a family party, and the last time I do remember having a family party, it's a very vague memory. So we don't ever have relatives over. My parents are constantly fighting because of the condition of the house and why it isn't clean and why it keeps getting dirty after we clean it. There have been times where my dad and I will clean the house for 3 days straight and have 20 bags of garbage. And my mom will come home and we won't even get a thank you or acknowledgement, and the only comments we'll ever really get are, "Where is X? Where did you move blank? It was just here and now I can't find it," and her immediate reaction is just negative. And I've learned sort of that it's not the best idea to clean without their consent or their monitoring of the situation, but at the same time, there's no way else for us to clean other than doing it while she's away or while she's asleep. I'll a lot of times go downstairs into the kitchen and clean off the counter, or go into where she sleeps, which is the family room, since my mom and dad don't get along. She's been sleeping downstairs for a long time, so she sleeps in the family room. I'll go in there and clean up all of the empty bottles and containers. Empty bottles meaning Pepsi bottles, not alcohol. I'll clean all those out and recycle those, and that's something I do every few days. My dad and I spend a lot of time cleaning the house whenever we can do so. As an example, today I was cleaning out the freezer because my mom had brought up that the freezer wasn't working properly and there was a noise. So I looked at it and the freezer's just jam-packed with boxes of food and other stuff like that. So without her even asking, I was just in the assumption that I should try to clean out the freezer a bit so I can free up some space in there. And she didn't help me, and I didn't expect her to help me like usual, but I started cleaning out the freezer, and then I just asked her one question because we have a lot of ice packs in there where I could move the ice packs or if we could get rid of a few of them just to free up some space. And she basically started yelling at me for cleaning out the freezer. And while I'm used to that, it just is something I'm still not desensitized to. That's something that just confuses me and baffles me and kind of upsets me every time something like that happens. So I still managed to clean out the freezer a bit, but not as well as I could have. And I went back up to my room and just kind of reflected on the situation. I really feel bad that she can't control the way she thinks and the way she disposes of things, but I really wish I could do something about it, and I have tried to do something about it. I've talked with my best friend's mom multiple occasions about maybe getting help for her, some sort of therapy, which she's ultimately denied every time. She doesn't want to go to any kind of therapy, whether that be just basic general mental health therapy or specific for hoarding. She doesn't want any of that, and that really hurts my feelings because I want the best for her, and I always tell her that, but it doesn't seem like she ever wants the best for herself, or even if she does want the best for herself, she doesn't want to take the initiative and do it. I understand where she's coming from. She's lost a lot of people in her life. We lost our godmother a few years ago, which was her best friend, to cancer. And since then, I mean, things have been just as bad or worse, and there's nothing we can really do to help that still. The first house we lived in until I was 3, I mean, we lived in it before that, but I wasn't born yet, but I lived in that house until I was 3, and that house was absolutely trashed. And I'm not entirely sure why we moved out of that house to move to where we are now, but I know part of it was due to it was basically inhabitable at that point because of how much clutter was in it. And then we moved to our current house, which I've seen pictures of it clean before. I have vague childhood memories of it being kind of clean, but I've never been in a living space in my entire life that was clean and was able to hold people and parties and anything like that. And that's just something I've always wanted. One thing I've really always wanted was a basement to be able to have people over in and to hang out in, because that's always my favorite part of my friends' houses. Is whenever I go to my friends' houses, we hang out in the basement, and they have a TV down there and we play video games down there. But my basement has always been my room upstairs, which is very, very small, and I've never been able to have really more than 2 people over for my entire life, and that sucked because there's so many things I've always wanted to do. And my dad would always promise me that we'll clean the basement together and finish the basement, because it's an unfinished basement still, but it's consumed by boxes and garbage and things that are just absolutely disgusting, to say the very least. And I'm sure you guys have seen the TV show Hoarders. There are very extreme cases. Just watch that show to maybe give yourself a bit more knowledge and perspective on what it's like to live in a place like this. I don't have a table to eat at in my house. I eat all my dinners in my room as well. I don't have sit-down dinners with any of my family members because the hoarding has really just made our family aspect diminish. It's like it's nothing. It's been like that for as long as I can remember. We did try for a while to at least clean up for like Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we'd have to clean up the entire living room and the table in there just for like one day of the year, which my dad and I would just do ourselves, because you don't expect my older brother Steve to help at this point because he's been doing this for longer than me. But we gave up on that and just go to my sister's place because she lives on her own now. But I've never had that aspect of my family where we sit down and eat dinner together, ever. It's just never something we did because of the condition of our house. So just cherish those things, the small things that you may overlook in your household, whether that be a clean bathroom, a clean living room, a clean family room, a clean house overall, because that's something I've never had, and that's something I wish I had, and that's something I will continue to wish to have in the future. I don't really know what I wanted to accomplish with this video. It's sort of a rant. It was sort of just something I wanted to get off my chest for a change, because I'm so used to just holding it in, because I don't feel comfortable talking about this. It's embarrassing, and there's nothing I can really do to change it. I've come to terms with. So I don't want you guys to look at this as like a cry for help or anything. My really big objective, I guess, with this was to inform you that this is something I go through, and if you go through it, that you're not alone in this. I hope you can't relate to me, but if you do have to live with something like this, that I'm here and I completely get it. And it sucks, and I wish there was something I could do to mend my parents' relationship, to clean up the house, to have a finished basement to have people over in, but until I get my own place or something magical happens, I don't see that ever being a reality for me, unfortunately. So hopefully you guys maybe learned something new today, and that's all I could really ask for, I guess, out of a video like this. So have a great day or night, depending on where you are. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.